Good morning and welcome to this channel. I'm going to talk today about something that people may or may not understand, what I'm actually talking about. But one of the things that I have done since I was actually quite young is I have been able to identify what I call old souls, or people that have been, that have been reincarnated, where they are old, as in they've been reincarnated many times. And this will tie into another video that I'm going to do, which is how you know whether you're an old spirit or not, an old soul. So one of the things I've done, and I think it's actually quite lacking nowadays, especially I find with a lot of young people. A lot of young people, especially millennials, have become part of a bigger matrix of control, and because they're immature and very manipulative, or easy to be manipulated, rather, not manipulative, but because they're easily manipulated, they've been sucked in, they've been sucked into this matrix, who hasn't seen a huge amount of people walking around plugged into their phone? Very often they've got earbuds or headphones or something, and they are constantly on their phone. People are walking around nowadays with the phone in their hand like it's an extension of their arm, their arm or their hand. It's quite frightening. But anyway, bear with me, I'll hopefully explain this a little bit better. But one thing that I've noticed is that younger people, and I mean younger people as in the last 2, possibly 3 generations of people, are not listening to their elders. Most of the time, those people are not even really listening to their parents, but they're certainly not listening to elders. And this has got spin-offs with discussions about social networking, and I'm talking about, proper social networking, not the online crap, but, interaction with humans, and the kind of the social infrastructure and network, the community, it has been basically destroyed in our modern society. And so I find more and more that people are not really listening, young people especially, are not really listening to the advice of the elders. They're not taking time to talk with elders, to talk with the older generation and learn from them, And I think we now seem to live in a society where people think that, because a 70, 80, 90-year-old person can't use a smartphone, or they can't use the internet, or they don't know anything about computers, that they don't know anything, that they're not useful. The information that they contain is not useful. And of course, life isn't about technology. It isn't about, online social networking. It's not about Twitter and Facebook and, all these other kind of things. Those are just tools. And I think people have kind of lost that understanding about technology and about modern day life. That all of these things are just tools to be used in order to enhance your own self. That's what they have to become. And I'm coming from a background as a professional psychologist, as an IT consultant, as a professional photographer, and all of these other things that that I've experienced throughout my current lifetime. And I've learned over many reincarnations as well. So I kind of know what I'm talking about. But you know, it kind of frustrates me in a way how the older generations and you know, the older people are literally being dismissed. Part of my job in real life is dealing with people, you know, on a psychological level who feel isolated, who feel that they don't have a place in society, they don't know what they're about, they don't know what their purpose is, and I help them to try and find that, and how to deal with other people. And you know, there's the whole question, why, you know, there's lots of questions that people have, and the older generations and our elders have already got the answers, or they've got most of the answers. You know, they've been there, they've done that. Very often they're an old soul as well, and I mean old soul as in, you know, they've been reincarnated many times and they've learned. They have knowledge to give. Whether people really want to, you know, whether people really want to try and find out about relationships, about life, about experiences, about how to run a business, about, you know, working in a factory, about driving a vehicle, about, you know, anything. Just because people don't think it's relevant to today's modern society, I think they're wrong. I think they're very, very wrong. I also come from the background of I believe, okay, this is my belief, I believe that pretty much anyone can learn anything from something else, you know, even if it's completely unrelated, because you have to dig deeper than the vocal words, than the surface of what something is, in order to find out what's underneath it, or what the real meaning is, or what you can adapt information from to what the answer that you're trying to seek. I mean, that's kind of a skill that's difficult to. I can talk about it, and it probably sounds very vague to a lot of people, but you know, you can. Let me put it into context. I've been on a course for a specific subject. Let's say, I remember distinctly a course about photography. Okay, and I went to this lecture to learn, you know, about this person's experiences, and it was absolutely nothing, not the type of photography that I really enjoy doing, or I feel like I've got the best skills at. You know, my main skills are taking photographs of people and social events and such like. And I think this was about nature photography and wildlife and stuff like that, which I'm not very good at. So, you know, but throughout, and to add to it, okay, I'm going to add to it as well, the person delivering their speech, you know, their talk, their discussion, wasn't exactly the best person really for teaching others, let's say, and giving that information on. But anyway, what I was able to do was listen to what that person was saying and what they were trying to share with others in the room, and I was able to adapt what he was saying to my own business, to my own skill set, and it just made me think that yes, I could apply that information, which was kind of being delivered in a way that, you know, if I just looked at the surface of what he was saying, I would have just thought, you know, none of this had any relevance, or I couldn't apply it to my own self. But if you dig deeper, if you take away the surface layers and listen to the message, you know, listen to the message that's being delivered, and there's skill set for that as well, you can apply that knowledge to whatever it is you want to try and do yourself, if that makes sense. Giving you another example, I saw a video really recently. I do 3D modeling. I do quite a lot of things, but I do 3D modeling in a program called Blender. Okay, and I follow several people on YouTube because I learn from them. You know, their skills are really good, and I've learned a lot over the years. This one chap that I watched was he did a completely different video. It wasn't an instructional video or anything, but he did the 5 most effective things that you could do to improve your project and workflow and your end game, you know, on Blender. Now, he was actually talking about Blender as in the program, you know, an IT program. But again, I was able to peel off the surface layers and just listen to the language and the words that he, you know, that was being imparted, the message, and I could apply that to pretty much everything, you know, everything in my life. And I learned, out of those 5 things, I think I learned 2 really, really good things that I can apply to pretty much everything, and I've already put those things into practice, and it really, really works. So, and the same goes with our elders, you know. Just because they lived through a war, or you know, maybe they got married and didn't have any children, or maybe they got married and had 10 children. You know, maybe they never drove a car. You know, and maybe they never had a phone in their life or a computer. But there are things that everyone, you know, that our elders and the older generations can teach us if we listen to the message. If we listen to the message of their life story or their experiences and the knowledge that they gained, we can learn from them. Now, I've done that from a very early age, and I've been ostracized, and I've been, you know, I've been sort of laughed at by my peers of my time, you know, for listening to old people and learning from them, because, you know, I was always told, the old people don't know what they're talking about, you know, waste of time, blah blah blah. They haven't caught up with, you know, the latest technology and the latest gizmos and blah blah blah, you know, and that they've lost touch with reality and all that kind of thing. And I never really believed that myself, because being an old soul myself, you know, I knew that things can be gained, and I still will continue to learn from our elders. I think it's important. I think it's really important. Now, I do see that there are some young people who are listening, you know, who will listen to the older generation, and hopefully I'm not part of that older generation yet, but I am getting there. And I have noticed, and I come across people that you do come across people in your life. You know, you could talk to a group of 20 young people, for instance, and there will be 1 or 2 people there that will actually listen to what you're saying, and the rest of them, you know, it's just going in one ear and out the other. You know, and that's one way of, you know, recognizing that possibly the people that are actually listening not only could be just genuinely interested in what you're saying, but it is possible that they're also, you know, an old soul, and they want to genuinely learn, and they could be scratching away the surface of what you're saying and listening to the real message. And from a psychological point of view, you learn how to give messages to people by dressing it in a way that they will understand, and that's the key to being a psychologist. You know, is telling stories. You know, that was part of my training, was actually learning how to tell stories and how to impart the message, because you don't really want to make it too easy for people to understand the message. You know, they need to adapt it for themselves. So anyway, that's really what I wanted to talk about today. I'd be very much interested in hearing what anyone else says. Oh, and something else I wanted to mention. Sometimes elders and the older generation you know, sometimes they feel like they're useless, that what they have to say doesn't really mean anything. Now, I don't know whether that comes from just lack of confidence or a lack of belief in themselves, or whether it's because they're treated by the younger generation as, you know, past it and useless and, you know, just waiting to die. A combination maybe of all of those things. But I've always found that our elders are always willing to talk and share information, and you need to learn how to listen to them, you know, which I think is a real shame. You know, they're locked away in care homes, or they're locked away in a room somewhere, and they're just basically, well, our society just treats them really badly. And I think it's a real shame, because I think they have an awful lot to share, despite the fact that they're not up to date with today's technology and today's lifestyles and such like, you know. But anyway, I'd be very interested in your comments, and I look forward to sharing with you something else soon. Thanks for watching.